Okay, I will start with some gentle rocking after I connect with the breath a little bit. So I'm going to have a hand here on the low back, sacrum area, and one behind the heart. And while I will have already instructed about how to breathe, this is her chance to deepen the breath a bit. And ultimately, I want to be in the same breath pattern, at least for this time. So my intention to breathe deeply also gives her an opportunity to connect with the resonance, kind of the intention behind that breath, which is awesome. And then I'll move on to some gentle rocking. So you might start really slow. The slower, the more relaxing. And I use two different speeds, if you will, or techniques of this rocking. The first rocking is just both hands, the same pressure. I'm going to move down the body. You'll miss the frame now, but I'll move down the body. I would move around to the other side. I would do the arms as well. And then the second part of this rocking is that the two hands change speed a little bit. So one moves and then the other will follow. And that creates a little opportunity for the two joints that I might be passing, or a joint that I might be passing over, the two hands at a different speed, create a little different opening. And I'll do that through the spine for sure, and down the extremities as well. So maybe shoulder and upper arm, upper and lower arm, spine for sure. For sure. Good. Now I'm going to get prepared to apply the oil, and I'll just fold the sheet down and tuck it underneath her underwear in this case. Some people don't wear any. And I can just see the very top of the gluteal cleft. So the very top line of the glutes. And I usually have the oil very nearby. I have to walk to it today, but keep it nearby. So put about a loonie size amount of oil on my hands. And now I just kind of spread that oil around. I go up and down the center a couple of times, and you'll feel the quality of the oil spreading out. Some people are a little bit dehydrated, and it will show up even in the oil. So they'll just draw the oil right in. So over time, with your experience in your hands and with the body, you'll begin to notice when that is the case for someone. You can give a little wisdom there to help them start to maybe take in a little more water, especially after the massage. So once I've got a good amount of oil, so I go to the top of the glutes, shoulders, around the shoulders. Maybe I'll do one down the arm or two, since I don't really put any oil on the arms later. And now as I move my hands down to the glute line, I'll actually, almost like grabbing the top of the glutes, and I'll lean back and pull the fingers back towards me. So I press away into the top of the glutes. Now all 5 fingers and 4 fingers and the thumb pull back. I slide all the way back up to the top of the shoulder girdle. And sometimes I'll just stay right in this glute area. Push, pull, this lumbar spine. So it's like I push it away, it gives a little decompression. I pull it back as I grab the glutes. And some people would just prefer that I do this for the whole hour. Sometimes I'll do a little thumb press right on the sacrum there, the little indentation right in the center of the sacrum, center both sides, I should say. Good. Now I'm going to step off to the side. We'll do a couple of little movements, lots of permission to explore. And now I'm going to take the side of my hand between the first and second knuckle and sweep down the shoulder blade. So from the corner, the bottom corner, the middle section, the top corner, over to the edge of the shoulder blade. Let me see, once in a while I'll move my hand in if I just want a little more oil around there. I just want to add a little integrating sweep. Lots of permission there. Good, now I'm going to bring my knuckle to the center of the triangle of the shoulder blade, if you will. So that's called infraspinatus, one of the rotator cuff muscles that attaches right in the middle of the shoulder blade. And for a lot of people, that's an exciting spot. For a few breaths. And I will have already checked in with her to say, she's going to breathe her full breath during this practice. It's really like a yoga practice, really. It's the yoga of massage, indeed. And if I get up to the edge, like the edge of a posture, and it goes beyond, let's say, 6 or 7 on the scale of 1 to 10, she's going to let me know. All right, I'm complete with that. Now I'm going to bring my thumbs along the lateral border of the scapula, so the bottom tip of the scapula up to the top corner, kind of into the armpit area. I'll do a few of those strokes. And one of the last strokes I'll hold right under the angle of the scapula. It's almost like I'm going underneath the scapula into the armpit. And that's teres minor right there. Again, one of the 4 rotator cuff muscles. I just might move my thumbs back and forth a little bit as you gain wisdom about what it feels like in there. Good. You'll see I do a little transition sweeping stroke. Now I'll go to the head of the table. Sometimes I sit down when I do this one just because I like to sit down sometimes. And now I'm going to move. This is called supraspinatus. So right at the top of the shoulder blade, there's a groove that goes out to the corner lateral edge of that top corner of the shoulder blade. And there's a muscle there called supraspinatus. Sometimes I'm feeling a little of the trap right here too, a little bump that you kind of, or some fleshy area to go over, but they're going to feel this for sure. And again, I do 5 or something-ish. You'll see 5 is kind of a number I use, right? And now again, I'm going to take that, maybe the top 2, second 2 joints of my hand and sweep from the top corner of the scapula to the occipital ridge. This is called levator scapula, the muscle that hikes up the shoulder for some people. And you'll get a feel for it. Good. And now I'll move on to my thumbs, starting at about T1, the top of the thoracic spine, so not in the cervical spine. We'll get to that later, but the top of the thoracic spine, I'm going to do some little thumb crosses right down the erector muscle. So it's like a big cable, the Golden Gate Bridge, big cable that runs right along the side of the spine, and I'm going to move my thumbs side to side like they're crossing over We'll talk about ergonomics. I'm taking care of my body. I'm not letting my shoulders creep up to my ears. I'm breathing. Again, maybe 3, 4, 5 of these.
7.
10, the client said. That would be fun. I love being guided by the client. Alright, and now I'm going to go to quadratus lumborum. So I'm going to go to the top ridge of the hip. My fingers will go to diagonal angle in there. That's why your fingernails have to be nice and short, otherwise they're going to feel this. I'm just going to work across that top ridge of the hip. Good. And I'll go to the bottom rib, and I'll work along the edge of that bottom rib, kind of moving from lateral to medial. So from the outside of that rib back towards the spine. And then I'm going to kind of do a couple of sweeping strokes, and then I'm going to bring both fingers stacked on top of both hands in from the spine out to the edge. So I'm going to roll right over. You can feel a big meaty muscle there. And I get to the edge where it'll start to dip down into nothing, right at that spot where I've got a lot of muscle in front of me from the edge. That's the edge of this muscle. I'm gonna go a little bit side to side. I'm actually rocking my hips side to side right here. My fingers just stay in one place, and I rock from one heel to the other, and that creates a back and forth motion. And then finally I'll do an opposing stretch, a little traction. So one hand moves towards the glute, the other hand slides up towards the upper torso. Now it's pretty slippery right here for me right now sometimes. So I'll oppose the two ends. Sometimes I'll put the sheet back on and let the sheet help me get some traction to make this opposing lengthening stretch. Could I do a couple integrating strokes to transition to the other side? And I do the same thing on this side, a couple integrating strokes, and then using the side of that first and second knuckle, I do some little triangular shaped, is what I'm filling in, filling a little triangle from the two corners back to one corner of the triangle. And then one of those final sliding strokes, I'll pause it there. I kind of feel my way to the center. You can't really go wrong here. Now, what's also happening is underneath the shoulder blade, between the shoulder blade and the back, is a muscle called subscapularis. It's the fourth rotator cuff muscle. It's a pretty tough one to work on. That's the advanced course. We'll be doing that, so come back for that. And sometimes they're gonna feel that right here as I press on this side of the scapula shoulder blade. They're gonna feel it through to the other side, which I'm sure she is. Mm-hmm. And I'll sweep that away, and I go to that lateral border of the scapula. And again, one of the final little sweeping motions with my thumbs. I'll pause. It's almost like I'm going into the armpit, going underneath towards that back half of the scapula, right up towards the top. Yeah, a little tweak right there, because that's one of the rotator cuff muscles that gets tight, especially from forward shoulder roll. People are around their shoulders, or there's a shoulder injury, or neck and shoulder, pretty connected, as we'll continue to learn. All right, these are the supraspinatus. So I'm above the scapula now, or the top of the scapula rather, kind of moving from the medial to the lateral, from the inside to the outside, sweeping out towards the end of the scapula. This is called above the spine of the scapula. So supra, above, spinatus, spine, supraspinatus muscle. And if I follow it out in a little groove, little channel that is built in, if I get to the end, it will stop right there. That's where it kind of goes under the bone of the edge of the scapula. And I can give a little pressure right there, and that will be exciting. Good. And then I move to levator scapula. So again, using kind of the side of of the bottom too. I'm not going to use huge pressure. I want a little more subtle pressure, so I use the side of my first and second knuckle, or even second and third. And you can see, I didn't say this, but you'll see as I sweep the knuckle towards the occiput, my other hand is sliding down the spine. So what that does is I'm addressing the connective tissue. The fascia there has to follow this movement. So I'm getting a little extra benefit from the movement that I'm making. Okay, and then I go on to these thumb strokes. Some people do a little J stroke right here, it's called. So like the letter J, forward and backwards, a J, sweeping down and away, little hook at the end of it. I'll do a few of those, because these are the mid-trap rhomboids for people, they'll feel that. And then I go after the erectors. I do the thumb cross right down to the sacrum. You see, sometimes I even stop crossing. I'll do a little, it's called cross fiber friction, and I'll do a little direct pressure, like I'm just gonna, I'll do a little wiggle sometimes. I'm just kind of declumping those big fibers of muscle threads that go down the spine. These big cable-like muscles. You can see sometimes I'll use the knuckles of my hand. Some even the palm, the heel of my hand, again, take care of my body. A little sweeping stroke across the glute. And now I'm ready to move down to this side and work the ridge of the pelvis. And then you'll learn your own body. Like if I use the wrong hand to try to get at the edge, I'll feel like, wow, I'm working really hard at this to try to bend my elbow and push with my chest or something. As opposed to if I have my straight arm, I'm standing back, I got the arm engaged around the joints. So I can get the leverage of that long arm all the way to the fingertips, and it takes practice to start to feel. So I don't have to overwork it. I'll do the other side. I know I'm in the way of the camera right now, but I'm sure my back looks fabulous. Sometimes I might be able to see that I'm right up in the little corner between the edge of the spine and that first rib. So those corners, the edge of the pelvis as well, and that corner of the spine, those can be little rich spots. And then I'm going to do these little strokes. I'm going to come in from the side. You notice I just kind of swept right down to it because I've done this before. So, you will eventually also have a feel for it. I do that little rocking side to side. And then finally these little separating strokes. So one hand goes down, one hand goes up. I've got a good purchase. I'm nice and engaged here. Good. I'll just do some kind of a little completion stroke here. And then I will cover her up. And then sometimes I like to do a little tapotement here. So you've probably seen this before, where I'm going to use really the pinky side of my hand. The fingers start apart, and as I strike the side of my hand on whatever area, the fingers compress, and the weight of that transfers into the outside edge of that last finger, the pinky finger, and that pressure will transfer into their body. I'm getting some of the muscles we just worked. Now I do one more called the open palm tapotement. So I open the palm, I take my other hand like a fist, and I can use some good pressure here. And this goes deep in the body. I kind of go side to side along the erectors. Try not to do the neck too much. I go around the scapula, both scapulas. I might go all the way back down. And I go to the sacrum, and I end with a really strong strike. All the way to T1, top of the spine. Now I do just a little loving tap to the crown. It's like, ha, and let them receive the benefit of that for a moment.